what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. With me is Chris Fry. We are with the Foot Candle Film Society, the annual Foot Candle Film Festival, and this here little podcast, Foot Candle Films, that we co-host together. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I've just returned from the River Run Film Festival, which is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
River Run International Film
Oh,
Festival.
yes. Sorry. Gotta get the proper title in there. So a little like I've saturated myself with film. So I need like a little break where I'll just kind of maybe just read a book instead. But yeah, it was a good.
Well, you have
time.
the next 5 days that technically you could go without watching a movie if you wanted to, and then you'll have to watch a movie again this weekend.
Right, that's
we'll have
true.
the review. But anyway, yes, you could entitle yourself to a little break. But how about, since you did have a full weekend of movie going, you at least one of the films that you did see this weekend, we need to talk about, and that is
Yes.
a film that we're going to be reviewing today, which is the film Michael. That is the Michael Jackson biopic. That just came out this past weekend. So Chris and I are going to give our review of that film, Michael, in just a moment. We also have a couple of trailers that we're going to watch. I'm going to share with Chris, get his feedback and thoughts on these trailers. I have seen both of them, but they're both ones I'm eager to talk about and anxious to hear your thoughts on, Chris. And then I think, Chris, you have a recommendation for us as well that you will share with us, a film recommendation
Yes.
at the end of the episode that we will all look forward to. So with that, I think we've got our plans laid out. I don't have anything catchy to say Michael Jackson related to lead into the review. I tried to come up with something. I've got nothing. Chris, you don't have anything clever, do you?
I do not. Alas, I do not.
Okay, well, then here's our review of Michael.
Just have all these songs in my head.
Don't wanna be a boy, you wanna be a man.
Just gotta get them out.
You wanna stay alive, better do what you can. So beat it, just beat it. I love you. Don't stop till you get it.
Michael, the newest film from director Antoine Fuqua, tells about the early life of the famous musician Michael Jackson, known as the King of Pop. Antoine Fuqua, I'm familiar with his previous film Training Day, which this is obviously very different, as it is a biopic. It does star Jafar Jackson, who was it Jermaine's son?
It's Jermaine's son.
Okay,
So it'd be Michael's nephew.
Yeah, okay. So it does star him in the lead role. And yes, he does look a little bit like Michael Jackson. I think with biopics, an interesting place to start, or a place to start that we've probably started in the past, with things like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, is when you go into a film, we often criticize one thing. It's like, okay, it's a struggle if you start from like the time they were a little kid and you go all the way to the end of their career, considering the person is deceased, which Michael Jackson is. That can sometimes seem a bit of a stretch because you're just like covering too much. It gets to be a little unwieldy. Sometimes the ones we respond better to are ones where it just takes a sliver of their career, like the Bob Dylan pick, which I'm blanking on the name.
Complete Unknown.
Yes, like a Complete Unknown with Timothée Chalamet. That one did not do that. They kind of focused on a little sliver of time. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on the successfulness of this film, Alan, because it does just focus on the early life of Michael Jackson, his kind of trajectory of becoming a star. I'm also
Conveniently. I mean,
Well-
it's like, it's his early stage. I mean, truly young, early
Yes.
stage, all the way through, I would say, the peak of his popularity and the peak of his cultural relevance. And then conveniently stops at that point, which we'll get into. But yeah.
And then the other thing that I often go into biopics looking for, whether I'm familiar with the artist or not familiar with the artist, is, do I learn anything new? Because, as a moviegoer, especially with biopics, especially with really famous people, a lot of times you're like, I feel like I know everything. Is there anything they're going to tell me that I don't know, or present it in an interesting way? And before I toss it to you, Alan, I will say, jumping off from me, the one thing that I think I learned, but I'm not sure, I didn't do research after the film. I just watched this film last night. I was not aware that the production of the video for Beat It served as an intervention in LA gang violence between the Bloods and the Crips. I was not aware of that. But that is something that the film kind of threw out there. If true, interesting. If not true,
If true,
interesting.
Yep.
And I'm surprised I was aware of Michael Jackson's fame, and I was never a huge fan, but I did know his music and stuff. I'm surprised that wasn't more of a thing to be known. Yeah. So that is something that I might have learned if true. So all of that considered, Alan, let me hear some of your thoughts on Michael.
Okay. So before I get into this, I've got I actually wrote notes.
Oh, wow.
I don't
Wow.
normally take notes. But
Awesome.
I wrote notes for this.
I very rarely do that unless I can sit at the very back of the theater so nobody
Oh,
sees.
no, I did them afterwards. I don't
okay.
write in the
Okay,
theater. I
got
think
you.
that's
gauche.
that's
yes,
that's
that
tacky.
is.
But
It
no,
is.
I'm saying I actually wrote things out.
Wow.
I normally don't write anything out for this show. It's,
Okay,
I don't.
Typically, I have one other. I have a couple of notes, but
Yeah, but I
just
actually
go off the
wrote
cuff. Got
things.
you, but not this time.
I think it's important, first off, that we should say
yes.
this film, the fact that this film exists is controversial in its own right now. And
would
I think it's
imagine so.
important to kind of lay this out there.
Sure.
I have a movie theater. We are showing this movie, and I've gotten some pushback from people being like, "Hey, why are you showing this movie? Why are you doing this?" Because obviously there are allegations, there are beliefs of Mr. Jackson having performed some crimes over his career. Now, I take it from the standpoint of, look, I know all those things exist out there. I do not know the truth. I mean, and that's the thing. There's been documentaries made. There's been allegations made. I don't know I obviously want to believe accusers and believe that. But I also look at a film as it's a collective piece of work by hundreds of people that got together to make this project work. By making a film about Michael Jackson, I don't feel like it's we are accepting and we are condoning Michael Jackson. It is look, the Jackson family made a movie to make money, to rehab the image of Michael Jackson the best they could. And ultimately, it's to make money. I mean, that's the point of most people making any movie these days anyway.
Sure.
So all that to say, like, I think we look at the film on its merits and what it's trying to do. And it's in no way us trying to say, hey, Michael deserves a movie and this movie totally exonerates him or whatever. And it doesn't. Okay. Actually, I think the biggest crime this film makes is it's so overtly religious towards Michael Jackson to the point of almost nauseating. So where it's like by the end of the film, I'm like, really, we're not even going to give any hint, open door or anything to the fact that there are some problematic situations with his story.
Right.
I mean, it puts him on a pedestal and makes him the most saintly. And again, it's so tough to evaluate for this because again, I don't know Michael Jackson. Sure. I was not there through all this. I mean, yeah, I always heard that he was a really caring person, and we're treated to so many freaking scenes of him like talking to kids in hospitals and all that. I'm like, okay, I get it, and I'm sure that probably was him, So I get it. You're showing that side of it, but I think it's a real disservice to the film to like make a film that's going to be a biopic about a famous character and not even have even the slightest bit to indicate anything else that was go beyond. Anyway, that's just my little personal thing. I want kind of before I go into reviewing the film as a film,
Sure.
Because I can separate that. I can have my opinions on, look, I think it was a crime to make the film the way they did and to treat it the way they did, but we're still going to review the film as they chose to make it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Chris, I think this film has amazingly wonderful musical sequences and performances, some of the best I've ever seen in a musical biopic.
Okay.
Where I found myself really enjoying the performances in the film. Couched around probably the worst, most cliche biopic I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I am a sucker for biopics. I'm one of the people that I went and saw Bohemian Rhapsody and didn't realize maybe some of the flaws in it just because I like the music of Queen a lot.
Yes.
And I kind of just
You kind
glossed
of excuse
over
a little bit because you enjoy the music.
The editing was kind of terrible, but I'm like, Rami Malek's really good. He sounds like I liked it. Rocket Man, I thought it was interesting how they did that. It's hard, but this one, granted, this has some baggage that those films didn't have.
Yes.
I went in knowing that the family was very careful about what messages this movie was going to communicate. Apparently, if you believe some of the buzz on the internet, there was a significant amount of reshoots that cost quite a bit of money.
Completely different ending.
Okay.
It was a longer movie
Okay.
with a whole bunch of sequences later on that were removed. They claim they were removed because from a legal standpoint, the somebody who was involved in some of the allegations during their settlement, part of the settlement was that their story could never be depicted on a film or whatever. So they had to go. Now that's the story. I don't know if that's true or not. That's like their justification of why they don't touch on that stuff.
Okay.
But it's also kind of convenient that that's the excuse they're going to use. But anyway, supposedly there was a whole extended version of this with more going into the later years that they cut out. Anyway,
Okay.
Yeah.
So the musical things, some of the performance stuff was interesting to me. The Beat It thing that I've referenced, that was just confusing for me because
Yes.
it's like, do what?
No,
Like,
and it was horribly explained and horribly
and
laid
if it
out,
is
yeah.
true that he went to a warehouse and was shooting this video and had actual gang members there watching, and he tried to encourage them to dance in the background or whatever to be part, I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. That
It's interesting, but it was so clumsily handled in
If
the
it is
film,
true,
yeah. Yeah.
do you have any?
I don't know.
Okay, so that now something that made me kind of I really appreciated the staging of it, but then they didn't go into depth, and I thought it was kind of wasted, but very impressive. The recreation of the Thriller video.
Yeah.
Because that is something I'm very familiar with. I remember watching the Thriller video a million times as a kid. And then when they cut to that shot and they're filming it, and I'm like, wow, that is really interesting. It looks spot on to how the real video was. But such a missed opportunity because you have the director, John Landis. They throw his name out, and
Yeah, what?
and he was there doing so. And I remember, there seemed to be, was there friction there? Was there not friction there between Michael and John? There's an opportunity there. And from the family's perspective, who put a lot of money into this movie and, have a lot of interest in it, you could have showed Jackson as someone who is slightly flawed, which gives the film a little bit more credibility, where he's trying to micromanage everything. And John Landis is he knows what he's doing. He is a film director. He's got it. He knows. But instead they just kind of mention it and just keep on going.
Even worse on that scene. I'm glad you brought up that scene, Chris, because you said opportunity, and you're right. This film is full of missed opportunities to be interesting and to do something to tell us more that we need to know. That Thriller scene. So yes, we're watching them film the big dance sequence in the Thriller video.
Yeah.
Michael stops, says, "Hey, I'd really like it if the shot looked like this," but for whatever reason, they decided where Michael was going to go talk to an assistant director or somebody else and say, "Hey, could you ask John if we could do this?" And the guy's like, "Okay, great." We never see John Landis's face. We see a profile of him at one point off in a corner.
Right.
But it was this specific desire in the script to say, no, we don't want to have Michael interact with John Landis directly. We don't want to have John Landis depicted in the film. Why? I don't know. Is there friction? Was it something where he didn't want to be involved in the film or whatever? Accused of something. Why would you make this whole scene where he wants to talk to the director and give some feedback on something creatively, but you're going to do it in a kind of a weird way where he goes through another person and doesn't talk to Landis directly? It's like, that to me summed up so much of the film where it's like, there's places where you could go into some really interesting content in this story as a whole throughout the entire movie. And the film just consciously decides, nope. We know the things we want to hone in on, and we want the whole movie to be how Michael's dad, Joseph, was a villain, and that's all we're going to care about. Like, that's the whole movie is Joe's a villain, and we're just going to watch how Michael has to battle Joe the entire movie. Nothing else. There's no other drama involved in this film other than Joe and Michael. Okay. And it's like, we've heard this story. We know Joe Jackson was not a great guy. We know he was a tough father. We know he was a very commanding figure in their life. I get that. But what else is there beyond that? There's so much more they could have explored. And I got some examples of it. I'll get to a little bit, but I want to hear your thoughts more.
Okay. Two things. First, I will address the father part. Little jarring to me, and I'm assuming this is based on truth, although I don't know. I, like you, was aware of the fact that Joseph Jackson, was a domineering, controlling figure, would beat children. I kind of knew all that going in. So it didn't surprise me that it was a presence in the film played by Coleman Domingo, which I think he struggles with as best he could, the material and the facial makeup.
I think he's very good.
I think he's good.
But I think his part is written
poorly
as just this cliche, stereotypical villain. There's no nuance to Joe Jackson in this movie whatsoever.
However, so two points with that too before. Okay. What I was going to say, maybe something I learned in addition to Beat It, solving gang violence was they never, that I can recall in the film, never called him, any of the Jackson brothers, Tito, Jermaine, never said Dad. Yeah. They always called him Joseph or Joe. Context, missed opportunity there.
Oh yeah.
Such that, let me, because there's a big point I want to make, but I want to pause on that because I want to dwell on Joe Jackson a little bit more. For such a controversial figure, and for, like you're saying, kind of the mustache twirling villain in this biopic, I will say that something I found interesting in the script that I feel like may have slipped by the Jackson family. The script was written by John Logan, who wrote things like Skyfall and stuff like that. So it's interesting. Yeah, I know, right? I don't know, like maybe there were other writers, but I know he was involved with the writing of Skyfall, the James Bond movie. Okay, coming back. The scene where Michael goes to his bedroom and his dad's there, and he is trying to convince him to do the Victory tour, I think. And Michael's like, nope, I've got my solo album. I don't want to do that. And they had this kind of back and forth. Something interesting that even though he is the villain, it's set up, this guy's mean. They always show him as like shadowy face and just really intense, like, angry. But he says to Michael, are all you going to surround yourself with is yes men?
Yep.
And I was like, considering what goes on and happens in Michael's life where he gets maybe addicted to painkillers because of the pain from the Pepsi commercial accident, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I am not excusing his behavior. He was clearly a very troubled individual, was mean to his children, abusive to his children. However, it's like he was the one person that told Michael no. Or would not let Michael do things. And everyone, you want to have a giraffe? Cool. You want to have a chimp? Then in a couple of years, we'll probably tear your face off because they're not meant to be kept as pets. Oh, okay, cool. Whatever you want to do, cool. So I thought in an odd way, still a bad person, but he kind of calls Michael out like, you are just you just think you can do whatever you want to do. I built you guys up, your brothers and you, to be this music for, and now you think you can. Now, still bad, but I was like, that's curious for that to be coming from that character.
I thought you're right. And that was a moment where it's like it's showing something. Look, if this film wants to be about the dynamic between Michael and his father, which pretty much that's the only real source of drama in this entire movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
But curiously absent, to touch on that, Michael goes and gets facial work done.
Right.
He comes back to his father and is dodging him. His father supposedly sees him in the hallway. Turns out, I thought his father was going to hit him, which was like, but all he does is he kind of looks at him and he takes mental notes. He's like,
And again,
okay.
another
And
opportunity. It's like,
another
what does
missed
this do?
opportunity.
What does this do to their relationship?
Right.
What does this mean for their relationship? If you're going to focus the whole movie on this dynamic, okay, I get it. This is the source of drama in Michael's life. Okay. But you know what was another source of drama that was a tangential to this that got nothing at all throughout the film? His brothers. Okay. I read up a little bit more after watching this film because I'm fascinated by
how they just get kind of sidelined.
Yes.
Well, but I mean, he was the talent. And
but
everything.
here's the thing is that the movie spends so much time talking about the Victory Tour, which I'm fascinated by this Victory Tour. Okay. Just a little background. I mean,
Sure.
and again,
I
'cause
remember.
again,
I remember when it happened.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
I had the album. I bought the Jackson
Oh, wow.
5 Victory
Okay.
album, and
Okay.
I didn't like it. And I remember wondering and thinking it was weird that Michael Jackson had just put out the biggest album of all time in Thriller. And like, it seemed like a year later, this album comes out with the Jackson 5, which is not really that great and nothing memorable from it. And Michael Jackson's on tour with his brothers. Michael Jackson never went on tour for Thriller. Like Thriller got no concert tour of his own. The Victory Tour was the Thriller tour, basically,
Gotcha.
just with his brothers. And then when Michael Jackson decided that he didn't want to do the tour anymore, even though they were all planning on going international with it and all that, and that becomes
Which
a
is
big
shown
point
in the movie.
Yeah, but it's all about hurting his father, or trying to get back at his father, or showing his independence to his father with that. Fact of the matter is, that actually caused a rift with his entire family, all of his brothers too, because his brothers were negatively impacted by that decision. And yet that made me wonder, it's like, why does this movie not spend any time talking about the impact that Michael and his fame and what it means for their family, that they have grown up as a family? All of his brothers are just like, in the movie, are like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. You know, it's like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, okay, if you want to get something else, some source of drama in this film, and not just let it be the mustache twirling father, the brothers dynamic,
because
and
that would put Michael in a poor light,
exactly.
and they're not willing to do
No,
that.
I know exactly,
Right,
and that's I get it. I understand why.
But you're just saying that just
but
makes it
that's
that
like,
much more frustrating.
If you're going to spend so much time on the Victory Tour, I mean, really, they spend like the whole last portion of the film is on that tour.
The whole conversation with Joseph Jackson and Don King.
Yeah,
I was
which-
like,
where did
what?
that come from? And
Yeah,
what
I
was
like,
that?
And I
having to
know
do
who
with
Don
anything?
King is. I remember him as a figure, like in the 80s.
He
and
was a
everything.
financer of the concert, but
I was just like, I don't get that.
No.
I don't really understand.
it made no sense. It's inclusion. I'm saying,
Right.
I get it, that it was another way for us to see that Joe is all about
money.
exploiting Michael and the family, and
Right.
he's getting it all lined up. But it's like, it just didn't fit.
So,
Here's my thing with this film.
okay.
I think there's two things they could have done with this film to actually make it a good film.
Okay.
One, scrap any biopic type leanings and just say we're doing a Michael Jackson performance recreation film where you're going to see Michael through the years performing at the Jackson 5. Then you see him as a solo artist, and you see that because that's what people wanted to see. And that's what people in the theater when I'm watching it were
Okay.
like digging.
Just, yeah.
And then just cut everything else out of it and make it that. I mean, in a way, that's what the Elvis epic documentary did in a way.
Sure.
And, you know, I learned more about Elvis through that documentary that I didn't know, which was not the purpose of that film. The film was to show him in concert, but you learn more about him by seeing real footage and the performances
Sure.
than I did about Michael Jackson in this film that I didn't already know. So it's like, that's one. Or you go the route of saying, we're going to really dig in deep on not only the relationship with Michael and his father, but also the relationship with his family and his brothers and all that. And by his choices and the decisions he makes, the impact it has on all
How
of them.
daring would it?
Yeah.
How daring would it have been to cut out all performances?
daring to cut out performances.
So do the absolute. Like, hey, I see you've got two options.
You got to make that other part really good.
You've got two options. You say like focus on performance through the years, which I think is an interesting way to do it. Then you say like have the focus a little bit more on the family and the effects, and then a third would be okay. Everybody expects all Michael is performing, but instead it's like totally a behind the scenes creative process in the studio.
That would have been daring.
So you can hear him working on the music. But yeah, just so many odd things too, like the Post-it notes that he would have in his little home studio and stuff. And it was like, okay, it was like a glimpse maybe into his creative process, but not enough to really understand.
It's like a obligatory check mark that yes, we showed him being a creative person, and the way we're going to do that is through a little soft montage scene of Post-it notes on a wall. And yeah, it's not enough. Look, I generally liked when the movie allowed us to see the creative process. The little tiny glimpses we get, I'm like, okay, that's good. I want more of that. That could be it. That could be a movie. Maybe what I'm talking about, the version where it's just musical performances, it's musical performances and some scenes of him recording and developing said music. That becomes an interesting film. That's what I would watch. The development of Thriller, I actually thought was really shortchanged in this film. Considering how big that movie was, it's like we're just treated to a montage of him like selecting the title of the film of the album. And that was about it. It was like, and then all of a sudden, boom! I got the biggest album in the world, and it was like just kind of move on. I'm like, okay, yeah, the movie is very lopsided in its choices of where it wants to spend time and energy on. So yeah.
So I'm going to reveal what I thought for me. Was the really just Grand Canyon sized hole at the center of this film.
All right. Okay. You're going to talk about a hole, like plot hole, like a storyline hole, or
no?
Because I have three things. I want to make sure we're not going to hit the same thing.
Biographical. It is someone who is a member of Michael Jackson's family who is not in this film at all.
Oh yeah. Okay. Got it. I got you.
And it bothered me. And my wife leaned over. She's like, where's Janet? I'm like, good question. I was like, oh, well, maybe because, I'm not familiar with how old everybody is in the Jackson family. I know there's a Jackson 5. I know LaToya, who is in the film quite a bit.
Yep.
I know she's there. I'm like, well, I think Janet's younger than Michael. I'm pretty sure. So maybe she's just not born. And but then, we go all the way up to 1988 and we never see her.
Yep.
So then I'm thinking, I know going into the film, and everybody listening knows this, of the controversy, the criminal things that have been brought up against Michael Jackson. So I'm aware of that kind of specter looming over the film. But to me, it was damning that Janet Jackson is not in this film at all. Because she is very well known. And not that I'm I know the film's called Michael. So I don't expect her to be like, but I expect to at least see her in the background at some points or something. Shouldn't even have to say anything, but have the mom be like, Janet, go tell LaToya to come, something. But she's not in it at all.
Where's Janet? Janet's out
Janet's at a
something.
friend's house.
Yeah, right.
Like, that just to me was very, very telling and just very interesting that there was a Janet-sized hole in the middle of the Michael Jackson
I do think it was
biopic.
interesting.
Because I think, to me, now I don't know, but it's like she's like, nope. I'm not in this at all.
I kind of took it. You remember the Iron Claw, the film, the wrestling film,
I do,
with all the brothers, and there was actually it was reported after the movie came out that there was one or two brothers that they didn't even mention in the film. And I think the takeaway thinking was well, yeah, because there were already four brothers were following. To add one or two more was just going to be crazy, and all the drama involved and all that. It was just piling on.
Very tragic story.
That's kind of the way I felt about the Janet exclusion. It's all right, there's already so many members of this family, and none of them are getting any screen time at all. It's
my counter to that is I understand.
Yeah.
But for instance, the Iron Claw, I didn't know that story going in. They were not as popular as the King of Pop and his sister, who went on to make a lot of big out. So I didn't know that going in.
It's
so
more of a glaring omission than it is a creative omission that maybe they did just in the essence of time and character development. So yeah,
I just found that really, and it bothered from the moment my wife was like, "Yeah, maybe she hadn't." But then as the film continued to go on, I'm like, Yeah, she's not in this at all.
No, she has come out and said she opted out of the film. Yeah, pretty much.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But
Let me, I want to kind of, I haven't really got to my list yet.
oh well, yeah.
No, it's okay.
I will
It's
shut
my own
up.
doing. I've been
Yeah.
rambling.
No.
I just want to say,
Sure.
positives. I do think, in general, the main performers, artists, the actors, are really good. I do think
Okay.
Jafar Jackson is good. Okay.
But he is so limited with just being a performer
Yeah.
and like doesn't really say like
no,
his
no.
dialogue is very limited.
No,
He doesn't get to
scripting.
say anything.
Scripting is so bad.
But
But when he is allowed to act as Michael Jackson,
Sure.
he's really good.
okay.
Okay. I think Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson is very good despite horrible dialogue and poor writing.
Coleman Domingo, just by his voice, and he just has
Yeah.
this presence,
Yes.
regardless of what kind of makeup they stack on top. And you're just like, yeah, you need an intimidating father or an intimidating figure.
I tell you what, both of
he's a
these
good one.
actors did. It's physical acting. Their physical acting was spot on. Okay. I bought their mannerisms. I bought their movement. I bought their body actions. I just didn't buy the words they were saying.
Got you.
Okay. And that's, again, I don't fault the actors for that. They're reading the lines that are giving to them to say. I think acting wise, they're both really good. It's a shame they didn't get to do more with those
Sure.
roles. And I will say, you asked about the question of, did we learn anything really? And you mentioned one thing that you felt like you probably learned a little bit.
If true.
If true. For me, I will say to try to find a positive to give the film outside of the musical performances, which again, I will say, I thought the musical performances were great. I actually got excited when I saw them going into a musical scene. I'm like, oh, good. Okay, this is going to be fun. And I did have fun for the couple minutes. And then we left the stage, or we left the studio. Okay, now we're back to the part of the movie I'm not liking.
Sure.
But there are some moments where I do feel like we get a little bit more insight into Michael Jackson's core personality. Just a little bit.
Okay.
Just enough to where I'm like, okay, are they cliche? Absolutely. He's reading the Neverland, Peter Pan Neverland book in bed at night with a flashlight. Yeah, it's cliche, but at the same time, little moments like that, I'm like, yeah, it does. I know what they're doing. They're building up the case of, hey, when Michael has some very quirks about his personality as he gets older and things that build controversy around him and all that, there's some foundations for why some of these things are the way they are. And why does he have a whole bunch of animals and all that? It's like, and there actually are scenes where he's talking to his mother
They're
about
just his
wanting
friends.
these animals, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about friendship, and he needs somebody around him he can care for. I think the film, in a few of those moments, does okay. I think it does okay giving us a little insight into that personality of his, just a little bit.
Well, and
You know.
okay, I will agree.
Yeah.
And I will say, kind of like with the Joe Jackson confrontation that I mentioned, it is interesting to me that he has a boa constrictor and his sister LaToya is talking to him and he gets called away. And he's like, oh yeah, he's hungry. And then just kind of like laughs it off and gets away. And you're like, that is a giant snake. And your sister, you just made this kind of offhanded comment and then kind of laughed about it and walked away. And she's like, okay,
Yeah.
do what? Like, and it just, and the mother says, Michael, I wish you had, would just get out and get some friends. And he's like, well, I've got the animals. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay. So it's like, but the family never just says, okay, you've got some, but yeah, I feel like they did kind of tiptoe into,
They tiptoed it. I mean, look, I
some
like
issues.
I like the little moments where we see Michael and his mother watching old TV shows at night. And it's like, I want to believe that's true, and I feel like it probably was. I think those moments were probably based in reality, and I think that's kind of nice. But again, it does strengthen a little bit that it does do a little bit of foundation building to say, okay, when Michael starts wearing the kind of clothes he wears later on and does has his different styles he goes through and all these little, he's got the Neverland Ranch, he's got the animals, he's got all these little things that tabloids like kind of just built up around him. The film does give a little bit of more of a foundation of who Michael is as a person, that those things don't seem so odd. they seem a little more of an offshoot of what we see of him as a youngster. So I do think the film did a little bit on that. Now, again, is it all image rehabilitation for the Jackson family? Absolutely. Is it all like, even like dropping in a scene where they mention painkillers when he's got the fire from the Pepsi commercial and he's like, oh, I don't want to get addicted to painkillers. We're like, oh yeah, I bet you do. So, right. I mean, but the scene is there to kind of lay that foundation of, no, Michael's a good guy. This was all stuff that got put on him that he couldn't control. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's for sure. But I will give the film a little credit, and I think they did do some personality building of Michael a bit that in those quick little fleeting moments I thought worked okay.
How odd. I mean, the film is odd in general, just because of the specters that hang over it. But then the final thing, it shows him performing some from the Bad tour, and before they go to credits, they throw up on the screen, his story continues. And I'm like, okay, what? Like,
they're
that's just
creating
a very weird.
I think the idea is that they could make a Michael verse of series of films. I mean, I think this is a franchise. Yeah.
Because it's like, you stopped, and we've already discussed probably why they stopped when they did, because it was at a peak of fame that was not as problematic as what would happen afterwards with all the allegations and everything.
No, look, they're setting up. I think there's a structure of a film that they feel like they could probably make as a sequel to this, which is his, quote, downfall, but also framing the film as, here's all the things that the ways he was wronged in this situation and the way that he, but then he gets built back up somehow by the end and whatever. Anyway, I think they left that door open, which also was a little cheap. I just thought that at the end, I'm like, oh, really? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, let's hear more of your list.
I've got three items.
Yeah,
I've got three items though.
Sure.
That I separate. I've already mentioned the things I didn't care for in the film.
Okay.
The cliche nature of Joe as the villain. I never quite understood Michael's choices for whether he was or was not going to tour with his brothers or record with his brothers, because he'd go from 1 minute saying, no, I'm not going to do this, and then another minute saying, well, yes, I'm going to do it for my family, type of thing. It's like, okay, what changed? What's happening? I don't understand the motivations. It seemed just convenient for the plot.
Sure.
Obviously the film not touching on any controversial scandals, ending when it did, I thought was a real crime in itself.
Yeah.
I thought the structure was odd. I thought, heavy on the time before Thriller. Thriller was really shortchanged time-wise. Then the Victory Tour got so much time, which was an oddity as well. Anyway, but there are three things, Chris, that I think are absolutely criminal in this film.
Okay.
And these are all really small things, but I just think they're really bad.
So my big thing was no Janet Jackson.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've got three on top of it. Miles Teller.
Oh.
Miles Teller. Chris, I honestly think there was a shot I could see a reflection in his eyes of him looking at his phone to see if his paycheck had cashed already. I honestly feel like that was the most pointless and just a blandest performance and just made... I don't understand.
I'm assuming who that character that he plays is a business manager. That is a real...
It's a real guy.
Okay.
And the guy who he plays, I think, is one of the producers of the film.
Oh, gosh.
Right.
So no wonder you get Miles Teller to do it.
What does he do in the story? What is he there for other than to give Michael a little encouragement in one meeting? It's like, and then Miles Teller was just so bad, like bland in this. Anyway, I thought it was bad.
That was bad.
You mentioned the Queen movie. What was it again?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
And the choice that Bohemian Rhapsody made to include a cameo of like some record producer or studio producer or whatever, played by a famous comedic actor, Michael decided to replicate as well.
Was it the same comedic actor?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Mike, I'm going to say it's Mike Myers.
Yeah.
Mike Myers plays almost the same part in Bohemian Rhapsody that he does in Michael.
I saw him in Michael and everything, but I didn't remember that he was actually in Bohemian Rhapsody in the same part.
Yeah, but basically, I think he was like a label head or something like that. And in this movie, he's like a agent or he's a something. I don't.
He's the
really
Columbia Records and or CBS, right?
Yeah.
Also,
know. That scene was painful too.
it was
by the way.
it was painful. I like Mike Myers though.
I do too.
I think he did the best with what he could
But
do.
it's just that scene came from a whole nother movie. It's like, oh,
Sure.
we're gonna go broad comedy with this guy, and
Yeah.
it's like this whole and his scene exists basically because, which I did not know.
Okay.
that
so
MTV
is that true?
I think so.
Really?
That MTV was not playing Michael Jackson videos at first because they weren't catering to a black audience and to R&B and soul music and all that. So they weren't playing Michael Jackson. So Michael wanted his stuff on MTV, and so they kind of strong-armed MTV to do it. I think that's all true.
Okay.
But the way it was approached in this film was like we basically just drop into a meeting and that Michael and his Miles Teller guy are like, no, we need to be on MTV. And the Mike Myers was like, okay, fine, pick up a phone. I'm going to get you on MTV. Okay, boom, you're on MTV. And that was it. That was like, that's the scene. That was the way this whole thing was brought out. So it was a painful scene. Mike Myers doing this was really cheap. Like, all right, this worked in Bohemian Rhapsody. Some of the same producers are involved in this film that were in Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it again. It was bad. Okay, that's number 2.
Okay.
Number 3, Chris, I have to bring this up as the worst criminal thing. This actively made me roll my eyes and groan to the point where my wife, every time this character appeared on screen, she would look at me because she could tell I was just seething.
Wow. I'm trying to think of who this could be. We haven't already mentioned him.
Nope. Wow. Well, you did mention him. You mentioned him briefly in passing.
Okay. Who's it?
Bubbles the chimp.
Oh, yeah.
Chris, are we to a point in our filmmaking world where we don't have access to real chimpanzees anymore?
Yes.
Is that true?
Okay. So
Is that? Please tell me because if that's
so
true.
The only reason
reason
I can speak to this is because there was a documentary. It's
Okay.
on HBO Max called Chimp Crazy.
Okay.
And Alan Cumming was in a movie a long time ago with a chimp, and then he is in this documentary as well because this chimp was still alive and went missing, and he was very concerned because he's a big animal rights person that's done a lot with PETA. But anyways, they kind of mentioned in the film how nowadays chimps are not allowed to be used in film because it is known when they are babies, they're one thing, but when they get to be a certain age, they can, unfortunately, become very violent, rip people's faces off, all this kind of stuff. So now it is a known thing. Chimps are a no-go.
Well, then I relinquish some of my hatred.
Right.
Because I thought, unfortunately, the CGI was just horribly dumb.
It was
and
bad.
the chimp was so unrealistic
Yeah, it
looking, and it was made to be like a real person, and its mannerisms, which did not make any sense. It was horrible.
But I think
I will give
it's
them a little bit of
thing now
credit.
that they can't.
If they can't use a real chimp, I get it. Okay. Understood.
Sure.
And I give them a little bit of I relinquish some of my hatred.
But even the way it was
I thought the way it was
portrayed
done was
sure.
really bad. It
I
was
agree.
just bad. It was groan worthy. At that point, I'm like, yeah, this film is like lost me at this point. So, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Well, that's all I have to say then.
Okay.
This is a weird film, Chris. You said the same thing. It's, would I recommend it to people? If you want to see, I still say some really good musical performances put on film, and you're a fan of Michael Jackson's music and you're a fan of that time period that we're speaking of. I think there's enough there to be entertained. If you're willing to just basically mentally check out on every other part of the film, which is all of the quote drama and storyline going on, I don't think any of that works.
Sure.
Like, just about. But the performances work so well that it's like, it's such a double-edged sword. It's a tough film. If you're going in, if you do not appreciate Michael Jackson's music and him as a celebrity at this time period, then no, there is absolutely nothing of worth. You will not learn anything really that interesting. It'll be more frustrating than anything. But so for me, I'm really torn in the middle. It's like, I hated everything about this film outside of the performances, but I love the performance part so well,
Right.
that it's like, would I pay a $7 movie ticket to see the performance part of this film, yeah, I probably would, Anyway, that's where I am with it. So you're coming out on this.
I'm probably a little less positive, but I still think it was an interesting experience. Very odd. But yeah, for people that are complete Michael Jackson fans, well then, yeah, you'll probably appreciate it.
Yeah. It's hard to get away from the specter over this film.
Yeah.
The fact that it's all produced by Jackson family members, the fact that it conveniently ends at the exact moment it does. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to get over in processing this for sure. So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's Michael. Wow. Okay. So my notes did come in handy. I did use my notes. Good. Happy to hear that we can't use real chimpanzees in movies. Actually, I'm kind of...
So that's something you learned?
I did learn. I learned through our review
right.
that this is the case, and that makes me feel better about that. Okay. Well, Michael is doing pretty good financially. So if there was a possibility of them doing something as a follow-up to explore later years, I don't know if they will, but the money is there to justify it. So We'll see. We will see. All right, Chris, how about we take a quick break before we move on to our next sections? We'll get to some trailers and your recommendations here in just a moment. But you're listening to Foot Candle Films. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Want to discover great podcasts or maybe even start one of your own? Welcome to The Mesh, Western North Carolina's podcast network built for creators and listeners alike. From local sports and business to comedy and culture, The Mesh is home to unique voices and fresh perspectives. Do you have something you want to say? The Mesh can help you bring your podcast to life with the tools, support, and platform you need to be heard. Check us out at themesh.tv, where great podcasts live and new ones are born.
Welcome back to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. We had our review of Michael in the first part of the show. Now we're going to move and turn our attention to talking about films that have not come out yet, that we are curious or interested in seeing what little clips we have to experience them with, meaning trailers. We have trailers that have come out for films. Chris, you and I have a very
love-hate relationship
with trailers. I think that's a good way to put it, where we don't want trailers to give away too much, but at the same time, sometimes trailers are the best way for us to have an idea of what the film is going for and whether we have any interest in seeing it or not. So I'm going to bring up two films. Both of them are curiosities for me in that I think there's some interesting stories behind them, or at least my personal kind of take on both either the film or the filmmaker involved.
Okay.
Let's do this first one.
Okay.
And we've talked about this film before in the news section, and I think we were going to watch a trailer, but it hadn't been released yet, but now it has, so we can actually do it.
Okay.
It's not the Ray Gunn. Sorry, that trailer has still not come out, Chris.
Okay.
So I keep checking.
Sure.
And no, it's not out yet. But one trailer that is out, though, is the one for Coyote versus Acme.
Awesome.
Okay.
I have not seen it.
All right. This is the film, if you recall, we talked about in news maybe several months ago, maybe last year, where the Looney Tunes film was made. It was done. It has Will Forte. It has John Cena. It's obviously Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner and all the Looney Tunes characters in it. And it's like it was going to be kind of a Roger Rabbit hybrid live action.
Gotcha.
But it got shelved. Who is the studio that was doing it? Warner Brothers. Yeah. Basically said, no, we're going to scrap it. We just completely shut it out. They pulled a Batgirl. This is a good way. Batgirl is the other film they did this to. Well, the film was done, and they just said, no, we're going to write it off. We're going to make more money from a tax write-off than we will from trying to release this film. So another group or studio kind of got it and took it on. Ketchup Entertainment acquired it for distribution. So they will be releasing it. And now we have a trailer for it. So we can actually see what it is that we were possibly going to be missing all this time. And I'm pulling up to make sure I've got access to this trailer so we can actually watch it. Oh, yeah, there it is. Great. So if you're ready,
Oh, yes.
let's watch the trailer for Coyote versus Acme.
Have you been horribly injured by a product made by the Acme Corporation?
It's not your fault. There's probably someone to blame.
Name of the case is Coyote versus Acme.
Wile E. Coyote. He is reckless. We all know who's responsible, and all of his injuries are self-inflicted.
Okay, well, that was the trailer for Coyote versus Acme. Chris pulling a little meta commentary in the trailer as well. But your initial thoughts, you have not seen this before, so
I have not. It looks amazing, and it looked amazing. I wonder what the trailer would have looked like prior to Warner deciding to shelve it, because the tweaks that seem to have been made as meta commentary afterwards just notch it up even more, because it's like, okay, you know, biting the hand that feeds you or really taking jibes at the hand that feeds you. Okay. Yeah, that's I'm all about it. So yeah, very, very interesting.
in a way, kind of
Looks
positioning Warner Brothers as the Acme Corporation. Kind of
Absolutely.
a funny little way of doing that. Yeah. You know, so I do think it looks fun.
Yeah.
I think I probably know why Warner Brothers maybe opted not to release it. Because the film does, I've seen it a couple times now, the trailer.
Okay.
The film does look to be, this is going to sound weird saying, slightly lower production value to it, even though obviously the animation is really cool and the integration with it. Outside of that, the live action stuff does seem a little low budget stuff. And it's a very niche story. It's like, you know, it's a smaller character in the Looney Tunes, kind of playing off this whole Acme thing, which is a very, you know, it's a very subtle joke from the old Roadrunner cartoons. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying I'm the film looks great. I'm excited to see it. It's just I'm looking at it from like, why did Warner Brothers scrap this? I'm like, oh, I kind of maybe see why they just didn't have a lot of confidence and faith that it was going to get a big audience for it. But
and that makes me, and I think a lot of other people on the interwebs pull for it that much more.
Oh, sure.
Because they're like, oh, they think it was too creative, too weird. Bring it on.
Yeah,
And that's me. I'm like, yeah, bring it on.
I would not be surprised if at some point down the road we learn that Warner Brothers kind of did this in a way to like build notoriety around the film and to kind of build up a cult following for wanting it, and then somehow still benefiting from the fact that it gets released later on and gets a bigger release than it would have if they had done it themselves. I don't know. There's no telling.
Right.
But anyway, that was Coyote versus Acme. No, super excited. August 28th. I think it looks
What's
fun.
the rating on it?
Don't know.
Okay. Because I'm curious because of, I mean, obviously it is cartoon violence, but I'm curious what the rating, probably a PG-13, because it seems like if you did PG, that might, I don't know.
No, it's PG.
It is PG.
Yep, it's rated PG.
All right.
Yeah,
Good
so
for
it'll be cartoon.
Yeah.
Very cartoonish violence.
Good for them.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. Okay, so now the other trailer I want us to watch, Chris, I'm also curious about from a more personal standpoint.
Okay.
We have talked about, in many situations, we've talked about the films of John Carney.
Yes.
He of Sing, or not Sing, I'm sorry, that's the animated film. Once, not Sing.
but that's
Sing
an awesome,
Street.
Right.
Sing Street.
Yes.
But not Sing singular.
Right.
The film Once, he was his first film that we came into contact with. He did Begin Again with Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo. He did Sing Street, one of my favorites.
Flora and Son.
Oh, not one of my favorites. Unfortunately, that film did not work for me.
Right.
Is that the only 4 he's done?
I believe so. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I think that's it.
Okay.
They've all been around music.
Yes.
Music based, and that's kind of been his thing. He's written like some of the songs that are in his movies. You know, I am such a big fan of Once and Sing Street and even Begin Again. I like Begin Again. Okay. That I want this guy, I want him to keep succeeding. I really like his movies. Flora and Son just did not work for me.
Sure.
I just thought it was way too schmaltzy, cliche, odd tone to it. It just didn't work.
Gotcha.
But we have a new film coming out this year by Mr. John Carney. It is about music. Once again, it is called Power Ballad. And have you seen this trailer?
No, but I've heard about the premise. Maybe did we mention the premise behind the film in news?
I can't
in a
remember.
Previous episode, maybe.
I can't remember.
Maybe, but I know Paul Rudd's involved, and
and Nick Jonas,
Yes.
one of the Jonas brothers. So Paul Rudd and Nick Jonas. The concept of the film is that I believe Paul Rudd is a songwriter, maybe a performer on his own. Meets up with Nick Jonas, who's playing an up and coming emerging pop star, singer, celebrity. And it appears that the Nick Jonas character borrows or steals or uses a song that Paul Rudd wrote and to go into stardom. And the film is about that conflict. The film is being pitched. I've seen 2 different trailers for it now.
Okay. One
Plays it up a lot more as a drama, where one is a little bit more on the comedic side. So I don't know what tone they're going for with this film.
Okay.
But let's take a look at, we'll do official trailer number 2. That's
Okay.
the one that just came out. And let's take a look at this and see what we think about this. This is, again, the trailer for the film Power Ballad. This comes out later this summer from Lionsgate. And let's see what we think here.
You don't recognize it?
Should I?
Yeah, of course, yes, you should. That's my chorus and verse. I wrote that song.
When?
Wow. Danny Wilson. You were great up there. Come with me.
I could tell within 2 minutes of meeting you, you are not just some boy band guy.
And you are too good for that wedding band.
Been toying with this one for years.
'Cause every song I ever wrote in my life is about you. So good.
All right. That has got a release date of May 29th in select theaters. Everywhere else, June 5th. So we're within about a month and a half of that at the time of this recording. Chris, your just initial take and thoughts on what we saw for Power Ballad.
I like Mr. Rudd. He has made some films that I haven't been as big on. Death of a Unicorn, I think, which we reviewed on the show, was one that didn't really work for me. But in general, I like Anaconda. I watched just recently and recommended on the show. I like Jack Black. Or not Jack Black, Paul Rudd. Jack Black was also in that film. But I am curious. They throw up a lot of quotes in this trailer, the second trailer. Carney's best film since once, Paul Rudd's best performance ever, musical comedy of the year. So they're leaning to, but the trailer does lean heavily more into the drama. So yeah, I'm kind of unsure what they're going for.
Yeah.
And granted, a good drama, sure, cool. A good comedy, also on board for that. So, but yeah, really interesting messaging going on. But yeah, I am curious. It looks like it could be good. And actually, the opening scene that they show in the trailer had a very kind of odd, not even Charlie Kaufman-esque, but kind of like a Vanilla Sky type feel to me, where he hears this music and then kind of goes into this vast open space of a mall. And it's just this really interesting kind of odd tone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm questioning tone as well. But I mean, if you kind of strip away all the quotes that were flashing up and the Rotten Tomato score and all that, which obviously they're trying to make sure everybody knows, this movie is good. Don't worry. It's good.
We're assuring you it's good.
I am surprised that this is going to theaters and not to streaming. I'm happy it's going to theaters, but it also seems like I don't think this movie is going to make any money, is what I'm saying. It's just, this is not the kind of movie that comes out in theaters anymore these days. Like a true, smaller, human drama / comedy, around music. It's not a theater pick anymore. I'm happy they're going theater route with it. I just don't know if it's going to pay off or not.
Okay.
But, But yeah, no, I want this film to work. I want it to be good. I really want it to be good. And I got a feeling it's either going to be kind of just nothing much to it, or it also has the potential to be overly schmaltzy, which I thought, Floor and Son was. Begin Again was a little bit by the end. I don't know. I hope. I just give me another Sing Street. Give me another Once.
Sing Street.
Even another Begin Again, I would be happy if it was of that level. I'm fine with that. Just don't go the route of your last film. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the two movies I wanted to kind of highlight for us there. The trailers that we had. Both of them very interested to see. Both of them very curious if they're gonna work or not. And from the trailers, they look like they will, but we'll see. That's what trailers do. Trailers sell a good story, and we'll see if the trailers hold up for this one.
Right.
These two. All right, Chris. Well, we are now at the end of the show. We have been talking for a good almost hour now, Chris.
Talked a lot
about Michael.
It's true.
A lot to talk about with Michael. But we would be remiss if we did not kick it back over to you to hear your recommendation for us of a film you think we ought to check out. What do you have to recommend for us today on this week's episode, Chris?
So I'm going to recommend independent film that I think did come out in theaters, but it's now playing on Hulu. It's from last year, 2025. Writer-director James Sweeney. I believe it may not be his feature film debut, but it was definitely the first time I'd heard of him. So it's the first of his films that I've seen. It is called Twinless. It stars James Sweeney, so I guess you can add actor, director, writer, but he's in the film. And the other key person in it is Dylan O'Brien. And they play two men who lost their respective twin brothers, and they develop a growing friendship after meeting in a support group for people who have lost their twin. This film is a comedy, but it also gets to be kind of dark in some places. Okay. And I don't want to say, I think the thing that keyed me into seeing it at some point is I saw somebody say that it's kind of Hitchcock in nature as far as some things that happen. And I mean, that's pretty high praise because I'm a big Hitchcock fan. I don't know if it goes that far, but it's just some interesting things that happen and just a story and perspectives. I don't know. It's just it's an odd film. It can be kind of dark. And I don't want to say much more about it because it's better if you kind of go in.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Not knowing a lot, which is kind of what happened to me. But it's Twinless, and it's streaming on Hulu.
Okay. You have me sufficiently interested.
Okay.
Right. That was all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
I saw some of the write-ups about this film and the previews. I don't know the details of it.
Good.
I just know I kind of was made aware of the premise when it came out. And I like Dylan O'Brien so much in Send Help. Thought he was great.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And this is a good role, another good role for him. He's kind of an interesting actor that clearly is not afraid to take risks.
Good.
So
I like that. All right. Yeah. Well, it has been added to the list then. Thank you very much, Chris, for the recommendation. And that's going to do it for our episode of Foot Candle Films today. We had our review of Michael. We watched the trailers for Power Ballad and Coyote versus Acme. And then Chris's recommendation of Twinless. So, Chris, any of those topics, anybody wants to chime in and have a dialogue with us about, how can they go about doing so?
If you'd like to contact us, you can do so by sending an email to info@footcandle.org. You can leave us a voicemail at the mesh.tv website, where you can also check out other past Foot Candle Film episodes, as well as other podcasts on various subjects from barbecue to comedy to mental health. We're also on Facebook at Foot Candle Film Society and other social platforms as just simply Foot Candle Film. Individually, we're on Letterboxd if you'd like to go give us a follow there. Do us a favor, if you like the show, consider giving us a review or star rating on the platform that you receive your favorite podcasts on, because it will help us reach new listeners, and we'd appreciate it.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Foot Candle Films. We'll be back next week talking more movies, reviews, news, and so forth. Until then, thanks a lot and take care.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to call.
special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.